Today on Focus Gaming News, we're pleased to have with us Alexandru Petrescu, who's leading BMM Test Lab's new cybersecurity business, BMM Big Cyber. Alexandru, welcome.
Thank you, Joseph. A pleasure being with you.
Oh, thank you for joining us. Do you want to start by telling me a little bit about your role at BMM? Well, your experience in the industry as well.
Of course. I mean, talking about my role would be interesting to kind of tell you a bit more about my my itinerary to BMM Big Cyber. So just a few words about myself. I've been involved in the digital business, legislation, putting together regulatory frameworks for Europe. Working a lot with US companies, large IT platforms, and of course now as we get all of us more and more digital, now forced, in the past was a choice, now is a must. With all the COVID experience we've been facing for the last few months, but fairly involved in the digital side of things. I've been working in the private sector. My core expertise really is a banker. Been working in banking in London, but even then I was focused on payment transaction, payment technology. So I'm not that far from my core expertise. And after that, as life is leading you, I've occupied a number of high-end administrative roles. I've been 3 times Minister of Economy, Minister of SMEs, and for a year and a half until the end of 2019, I was the Minister of Telecommunication and Digital Society in EU member state Romania. I've also had the privilege to be the President of the European Union Council on Digital Agenda for 6 months during 2019, and that gave me an unparalleled exposure and insights in the same time of not just what Europe should do in terms of cyber, what we all should do worldwide in terms of cyber, because more digital we grow, cybersecurity is becoming more of an issue. And those of us that have an early understanding of how important it is to be cyber safe are definitely going to be I'm not going to say the winners of tomorrow, but are going to be the owners of steady, sustainable businesses without the risk of being hit out of nowhere of God knows what cyber incident that could literally ruin their business and ruin the life of their customers. So from that point of view, being involved in all this activity for the last, God knows, many years now, 10, 12, or even more since I've been involved in the digital spectrum. I came across a bunch of lovely gents and ladies from BMM. We've been working together because BMM is a very proactive company in terms of digital enhancement. I mean, now I'm part of the team and I know the business, as you can imagine, intimately. And they've been always open to digital enhancement, to digital solutions. So it kind of was natural to join the party, let's say, after many discussions. Well, of course, I was running the regulatory frameworks, conceptions, and everything else, and BMM on the other hand. We've been talking in many occasions about how important it is to have the companies like BMM, for that example, that's really willing to take a leap in terms of becoming more digital and assisting clients remotely. And now life shows their choice at that time became a practice nowadays. So at some point, beginning of this year, end of last year, we decided to join forces. BMM, in essence, is an auditor, is a certificator. So they have very in-depth knowledge about their clients. And once they operate their core business, which is certification, of course, being open to digital and digital solutions, they do understand the vulnerabilities of that client. And it was just a natural transition to say, guys, you're in essence an auditor. Of course, we work with Chinese walls. Let's get together, let's have in the group a cybersecurity company that would primarily be focused on the specific of cyber threats of gambling world out there. And that's how everything started. Of course, my ideas fell on a very fertile ground in terms of directors, board members, all the colleagues. So we got started. We have a good understanding of the profile of risks in gambling business. That's what really set us aside as a business. We have this unparalleled expertise. I'm sure you know BMM as a standalone company has been doing certification and gambling auditing since 1981. So we really know the game of gaming. All right, so it was this particular expertise could be not necessarily monetized. Of course, monetizing this experience is an important part of our commercial existence, but it's really coming with a helping hand, with an additional type of service for many clients, which they were either previous victims of cyber incidents, aware of the cyber risk, but not exactly knowing what to do. So we really came to the right time, the right place with the cybersecurity business. The response was absolutely amazing from the marketplace. It really is a matter of us lining up the services in a manner that would be easily accessible and understandable for our clients, because the interest is there. For those that they were a bit on the fence in terms of, shall I allocate budget for having a better cyber resilience? Now the answer is yes, because they've seen what happens. And I will just close my first intervention, which is rather long, and sorry for that. Since beginning of February, mid of February, since really COVID-19 became a worldwide issue, I noticed, according with the last FBI report I was reading a couple of months ago, up to 300% was the increase of cyber attacks across all businesses. And you have to understand, when we speak about gambling businesses, about gambling sector, they are equally attacked as financial services. They are seen as a depository of valuable data, of valuable information, starting with credit cards, starting with personal information. So they will always be high on the targets of state actors or some wheezy guys knowing how to handle the computer, and they just want to make a living or just an impact by initiating cyber attacks. So it's a great business, is a great sector, but is really vulnerable if the right solutions are not in place for the businesses, especially those with very strong digital presence.
Hmm. And so do you think that most operators in the industry now are aware of the importance of cybersecurity, and is there more that the industry should be doing still?
Well, it's definitely the awareness is on the app, no question about it. I mean, it's not about us making cold calls to the industry. Those familiar with BMM and with the level of professionalism they've been delivering since 1991, they rightfully assume will be the same type of business level in terms of servicing for the cyber business, and we aim to have the same level of service. And they reach out to us, and they want to know more what's happening. So that's a good signal that things are moving to the right direction in terms of awareness. Saying that, the human nature, you always think is never you, is the guy next to you. You always think, hey, I'll do it next year, I'll allocate some money next year. So we have to battle with our own capability to foresee the risk and mitigate it. What's interesting, a part of the very large corporations, which they tend to have solutions in place, they tend to have human resource with the right expertise in place. Even then, we can address to them solutions that are beyond their current setup in terms of cybersecurity, because we work with the best. I mean, with the best, I'm talking Israeli expertise, military expertise. We've been really getting together the best minds and solutions in the marketplace. So we have solutions for the large corporations, which they're a bit more aware. They have to sometime conform with the level of corporate governance that is an obligation to have cybersecurity in place. But also I can see SMEs, small and medium enterprises from the gambling business, which maybe in the past they were not that aware or concerned, but because a lot of their staff is now working remotely. If you have a person remotely, almost no SME was really ready with ultra secure VPNs and connectivities to ensure those guys and girls are, their employees basically are fully safe from a cyber perspective. And of course, some of them, they learned the hard way, hence the 300% increase in cyber incidents. Some of them, let's say, I don't want to say wise enough, but at least capable to learn from somebody else's example, and now they are reaching to us. So it's a matter of us really having the right products for the right client, to have the right split of product and services categories to cater for all these needs. But things are definitely improving in terms of awareness.
And what about the nature of the threats faced by gaming companies? Has that evolved, and will it continue to evolve?
Well, in most of the legislations worldwide, US, Europe included, you'll see very much on top of the page and in terms of priorities, critical infrastructure companies. And you have gas, and you have oil, and you have health, you have education, of course, banking. But by the effects of a cybersecurity incident into the gambling world, they're almost equally damaging, because many of the main players in the industry, they've got such a huge amount of data they hold from their clients. They have a transaction and payment velocity similar to a bank. Sometimes banks are safer to guard because they tend to have a geographical area, a geographical territory, and of course other transactions outside the territory, but this is a minority. But when you have a large digital gambling platform, people can play very well from Romania, Indonesia, Massachusetts, or Australia. So in the same time, with the same velocity, with the same intensity, periodically spread on the same time of playing habits. So businesses are very exposed from that point of view, and now is raising the interest not just at some groups or some individuals who would find themselves landing on some sort of platform trying to unlock it or bring some level of dysfunctionality. They're also state actors, and this is very important. Now there are states out there which are sponsoring these sort of groups because they can bring a level of unrest that would really inflict damages on that particular country. And US is always been targeted. I mean, if you read the cyber reports, if you see the trends, if you see the dashboards of how things are moving worldwide, no wonder that cybersecurity and cyberspace became part of the NATO strategy. And now attacks, as you can see, we all see on the news, attacks via cyber means are more and more present. So coming back to a question, what's the range of threats? It's very wide, and larger you are, higher as a target, more disruption you can create, is most likely you are on somebody's list to be targeted. So they should really get the right solutions in place.
Do you think that, from the point of view of legislators and regulators of the gaming industry, is the importance of cybersecurity something that's on their radar, and are they sort of accompanying the the sort of process to ensure that safeguards are in place or standards are enforced?
I mean, put it this way, for the last couple of months, I did, as many of us probably attended, an endless number of webinars, and I always enjoy doing it. But some of them, thanks to my colleagues at BMM who facilitated my attendance, were with regulators. And that's a first, because there were very good, substantial questions. So from people like they understand the threat, not always necessarily understanding how they mitigate that threat, where it's coming from, what's the potential of the damage. But the fact they were asking, that's a big start. I can speak a bit for Europe, but I'm familiar, of course, with the US regulatory landscape. There is an interest. Now we have to push things. And by us, I'm not talking about cybersecurity companies. I'm talking the industry as a whole, to really have a level of regulatory framework that would ensure even the smallest regulated gambling entity out there, they have a minimum set of cyber solutions in place, because it's not about being big or being small. We as a group, we are as vulnerable as the weakest link, as the weakest member of the group. So if somehow we can armor ourselves with big budgets and grand solutions, if one company is left behind, that's the back door they will use, and they can get to common platforms, they can get to various tools we share and create damage to even the safest cyber company out there.
Would there also be a fear, do you think, that a major security breach by any gaming company could harm the reputation of the industry as a whole?
Well, absolutely. And, I'm not going to name names, but it doesn't mean I'm not following very closely what's happening with all the players in our industry, not just the big players, but I've seen some big players that were seriously hit. Companies you wouldn't expect, companies you'd expect, and probably they did put lots of money and budgets behind various solutions. But, it comes down to the mentality of the technical people, CTOs and so on, because, nowadays when you purchase or you pay a license for a fancy software, they all come with various standard cybersecurity features. They have some sort of embedded solution, and you realize after some point that's not enough. You really have to come up with tailored solutions that would really match the type of businesses and activity you have. Because if you get one of these big names IT solution platforms for emails, for communication, for sharing information, for saving information, databases, operators, and so on. At the end of the day, we all have different profile businesses, different profile activities. And they match almost everything, but nothing 100%. This is why you need to come in completion with specialized cybersecurity solution for our type of industry. In cyber, the best way, it's something I never done, and I'm not doing it. I'm never gonna do or create the interest of a cybersecurity solution by creating a scare to the client. The statistics out there are they're so scary, you wouldn't know what to buy first if you would read everything. The worst thing, they're actually 100% true. But they need to understand that more digital we become worldwide, it's not just about our business. You hear about artificial intelligence, you hear about 5G, you hear about IoT, Internet of Things. We will have all this sensorial, transactional world around us the moment you enter a gambling parlor, a casino, or some sort of gambling premises. And everything is connected. So the vulnerabilities out there are absolutely huge. So it's becoming a matter of responsibility. What sort of people are coming in? what sort of facing recognition you do. So it's not just about guarding your business for vulnerabilities. It's about social responsibility. So you know, cyber is becoming increasingly important, and I'm 100% will have more and more webinars and discussions in the industry around cyber. So hopefully we will remain forefront from that particular initiative.
Excellent. Well, Alexandru, do you want to just tell us a little bit about how you work with customers and the solutions that BMM Big Cyber offers to clients?
Well, of course, even if we primarily started this initiative of cybersecurity under BMM group umbrella for the businesses within the gambling sector, I have to say the calls and emails expressing interest are coming outside the industry as well. All right. So, but coming to a typical entrepreneur, a typical decision makers of a business, it could be gambling or not. Of course, we would start by assessing their vulnerabilities. We would start by assessing their IT infrastructure in a manner that we identify those weaker gateways and backdoors where a cybersecurity perpetrator could actually use. So even if they could be pretty prepared in terms of numbers and stuff, looking after their IT infrastructure, cybersecurity is a different business altogether. So I would recommend, even for those which they feel secure in their own means for operating, I would recommend starting with a penetration test, with a vulnerability test, just to have an updated radiography situation of how they're standing in front of a threat. And of course, after that, we would come with a recommendation, and by far the most important one would be a SOC, what we call a Service Operations Center, which is, as we speak today, is one of the strongest cybersecurity solution. Is basically a platform where you connect all the endpoints, all the machines, or you filtrate all the logs. So any sort of movement on your computer, on your laptop, on your mobile device, or any other digital device they might use for their operations, could be filtered, analyzed, and it's very important, not just by systems, also by specialized analysts with the right experience to actually combine geographical trends, industry trends, various type of habits of various users, people located outside the office premises, people located inside, the way they move. So everything comes into a report that gives to the CTO, to the CEO, to the board, a dashboard of everything what's happening, where their business is in terms of threats worldwide, business-wise.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, Alexandru, thank you for joining us.
Much appreciated. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, Joseph. And you know, I look forward to speaking with any potential business decision makers that would be interested in developing, just having a discussion about the threats, and we'll start from there.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you for your time, and we'll speak again soon.
My pleasure, Joseph.